It's high noon. Again, apparently. Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for another Legacy video. And today, Titania has challenged me to brew a Phlage deck in Legacy that is also playing High Noon. The goal is to build a Jeskai Control deck around these two cards. And before we get going, I thought it would be useful to take a quick look at what Jeskai Control looks like in Legacy right now, as of the date of recording, which is July 29th. In terms of metagame percentage, Jeskai Control is not very much. In the past few days, there have been a couple of challenge top 8s that look something like this. Essentially, the current Jeskai Control list is Jeskai Wizards, using Thundertrap Trainer, Tamiyo, and to a much lesser extent, Snapcaster Mage and Magus of the Moon to fuel Flame of Honor. And your goal is to 1-for-1 your opponent with your swords and your lightning bolts and whatnot, and then start using your Thundertrap Trainers and Flame of Honors to pull ahead as the game goes on. Now, Control is having an uphill battle in Legacy right now, and has been for quite some time. And you are not going to see very many people gravitating towards Control for that reason. It is very hard to build the Control deck that can deal with Oops and Reanimator and all of the other nonsense that Legacy has to offer at the same time. Decks are just fast right now. And honestly, I had a hard time figuring out how I was going to build this one. High Noon is a very constraining card. The upside here is that this is a hate card that can eventually go to face for a Lava Axe worth of damage. The downside is you don't get to do a lot of cool things. So, for example, cards that require you to cast a lot of spells to be good, your Kori Steelcutters, Monastery Mentors, those sorts of things, are going to be significantly diminished, or maybe even unplayable if you are playing High Noon. And I considered a Phyrexian Dreadnought Shell for a long time, because you have some flash things you can do on your opponent's turn. But ultimately, you can't play the Dreadnought and the Stifle in the same turn, and I think building that deck without Stifle decreases a lot of its power. Additionally, normal counterspells like Daze that you use to protect your own threats stop working. So, juggling this was a little tough. I decided to go a Jeskai Shell that has some additional aggressive elements to take advantage of this burn. So we're going to have 4 Dragon's Rage Channeler as well as Lightning Bolt as things that can rack up the damage, and the hope is that once we reach the mid-game, we can use Phlage and eventually High Noon to burn our opponents out. Now, 7 mana to deal 5 damage is a very, very bad rate for Legacy, when we consider that a Murktide Regent can do that in a single hit for 2 mana in many cases. But it is our hope that playing this just steals some game 1s versus combo outright, or we know this is coming and our opponents don't, we can better prepare for this. We are going to be highly interactive versus creatures, with 9 main deck removal spells here, not counting the Phlage. So things like an Orcish Bowmasters that get played out that have multiple bodies, that's hopefully not that big of a deal for us. A control deck needs at least one source of card advantage, and we are going with Tamiyo here. Don't think we can quite go like Flame of Honor or anything like that, and I don't know that we're big enough to go for the One Ring, and the One Ring also gets kind of awkward with High Noon, because the One Ring fills you with cards and you want to spam cards, but High Noon says no to that. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. The sideboard is a pile of assorted cards that belong in a Jeskai deck that is probably not going to be perfect in terms of in and out numbers. I spliced together a couple of sideboards to build something that looked reasonable, but a lot of times you can't tell exactly where your weak points are until you go and play the league. So let's get into some matches and see how this feels. Folks, if you need any cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, as well as my cat in the background. Hello, Mr. Percy. Are you going to do a jump? Aw, so cute. Anyway, check out toamagic.com. Use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and you're going to get free shipping as well. They're great. Their customer service is awesome. If you need some dual lands, they've got it. If you want individually and high-end stuff, they've got that too. Sweet promos, it's probably there. So, with that being said, let's battle. My opening hand is very lacking in, well, mana here. On 6, I'll say sure to this. Thundering Falls into Cycle Lorien Revealed into Tamiyo. And I probably need this Tamiyo to back up the Force of Will, or the Force of Will is dead. That means that High Noon is the card that goes back, I think, and we keep the generic Swords to Plowshares. After doing this, of course, I will unquestionably be paired into Storm Combo and be kicking myself for throwing that to the bottom. But here we are. Urza's Saga. Lotus Petal. Black Saga Storm. I think I let that one resolve. Punished. Lose Force of Will. Wishclaw Talisman in play. Magic Online Sense of Humor never fails. So I will Thundering Falls. Phlage can go to Graveyard. That's where we want Phlage anyway. I am probably safe until this Urza Saga goes off. Ooh, opponent does not have more mana, at least not for right now. Is cycling Lorien Revealed better than playing Meticulous Archive? I think not. Ponder. My issue here is next turn I can't ponder into High Noon and play it. I could ponder into a Force of Will. It's fine. I don't know that it's exciting, but it's fine. I'm worried that I just die this turn. Like Urza Saga just picks up an LED. Notably here, because I did not have the second untapped land, I could not have played High Noon anyway. So if my opponent combos off this turn, that is just something that would have resolved even with the High Noon. Mox Opal gets Legend Ruled. This is 3 mana, this is 4 mana. We're starting to get to Beseech the Mirror levels. It is an Infernal Tutor. It has 4 mana floating, plus a Wishclaw they haven't used, plus a Lotus Petal. I imagine this is just a very easy Beseech the Mirror Gaia's Will kill at this point. And there it is. Now, all of this mana is going to come out of the graveyard. I think getting Storm to like 9. 8. Dark Ritual 9. The rest can be 10. And still just enough mana to then Beseech 4 Tendrils, which we see a few seconds later. Lose game 1. So now the swords are going to be the first thing that goes. The dress downs can maybe stay because of Urza Saga tokens. Some number of lightning bolts will probably go. I want Force of Negation, Null Rod, Lavinia. Crafter's Cage is probably good enough. Surgical Extraction is borderline. More Prismatic Ending and Wrath of the Skies type stuff is playable but unexciting. Consign is fine for storm triggers and occasionally countering an LED or something. Do one of those to round things out. One surgical might be better than that. Sure don't have mana sources, but boy, that's a lot of good cards for the matchup. Let's not die on turn 1. I think I keep this hand, throw back Plateau, and hold up Brainstorm so that my Null Rod can't be discarded. Urza Saga once again. Opal. Lion's Eye Diamond. If there is a business spell put on the stack, I will respond with a Brainstorm, but I would really prefer not to cast this Brainstorm until something like this happens. Oh, yes. So I want the Null Rod next turn to shut off Mox Opal being able to fairly activate Urza Saga. So I think I bury High Noon and put Null Rod on top. I lose Tamiyo. Opponent can't go off there, which is great for me, because I get to stick a very strong card. And this probably means that Urza Saga is not producing tokens unless we get into weird things like Dark Ritual powering one. Fuck me, I guess. I'm thinking about whether or not I am doing this or this prior to casting High Noon. I think I am doing the Ponder. Killing my opponent doesn't matter as much as not dying to these 2 tokens. 4/4, 5/5, 6/6. Phlage does not fully answer those. I'm looking for the prismatic ending type stuff. We'll figure it out later. Yeah. So my opponent gets their token. And these are going to end up being 6/6s. Candy Trail for a Scry 2. And my opponent can cast a Chrome Mox purely to grow these. This is why I did not keep Phlage. 13. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Now I only get 1 spell here. So a Prismatic Ending answers one of these, then I don't get to do this. I can surveil. High Noon does not kill this creature yet. I'm taking kind of half of my life total. And I can either have 2 turns to answer this, or I can fetch and surveil. Apologies. I think I fetch and surveil, because I can play this as a blocker if need be. I want the white surveil land in respect of Phlage. 5 damage is not enough here, so we will not keep High Noon. Force of Will is not very good right now. Alright, so opponent just does not attack, which is great for me because I now didn't lose my creature. They were playing around attack plus Lightning Bolt block. They just wanted me to attack, and then they would swing in for lethal. But what happened, in reality, is that I now get to Brazen Borrower and keep this. So that was massive upside for me. So that's an obligatory send in there. Opponent goes to 15. And then I will send away this token. And at the point where I'm sending away this token with Null Rod and High Noon in play, I feel pretty darn good. And the next Urza Saga that comes down needs a City of Traders to come after it. Ooh, they're playing out Vault? Okay. I'll send in. I should maybe play Brazen Borrower on my own turn there. Not punished for it. Now I have 6 power in play. This is a 2-turn clock. Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, I'll cast that. There's half of my opponent's life total, and now I get Lavinia. My opponent has 1 land. So in addition to everything else that is going on, I now also have Lavinia. I still think I win that one if my opponent makes the attack in. I don't know if what they did was a mistake or a heads-up play. I think it's very hard for me to know that without knowing their hand. Okay, just feeling how that game played out, it was incredibly important for me to have answers to Urza Saga tokens once I stuck my other stuff. So I have 4 good answers, 5 good answers, plus Phlage, kind of. I might play Wrath of the Skies to just get 2 Urza Saga tokens at the same time. What comes out if I do that? Do I just go down 1 Phlage? Can win the game eventually. I don't need to find a threat super fast. That seems reasonable. I can also go down 1 Tamiyo if I am going to just be fucking null rotting. Actually. This one pitches to Force of Will, though, and still has, like, a relevant Planeswalker side. I mean, this has 2 Force of Wills and 2 High Noons. This is great. Opponent taking 1 mulligan already, and then keep 6. Basic Swamp. A nice looking one, too, from Duskmorn. Yep, that's fine. I'm just playing that stuff out. So now I have 2 Force of Wills that will be backing a High Noon. And I don't even need to flinch if my opponent plays a discard spell. I also have Dress Down for that. That is a powerful enough card that I think I will just counter that. So, let's play a High Noon. So now my opponent will make 2 Urza Saga tokens, and then I will just address both at the same time via Dress Down. There is another swamp there. I think I will intend on using Dress Down to kill both tokens and doing a Surveil land. So there's token 1. On the off chance that some Pithing Needle nonsense happens, I'll go ahead and do this here. So I have white, white. I want a blue one of these. Both of them are blue. I don't think it matters which one I do. I'll do Thundering Falls then. Phlage to Graveyard. If my opponent gets something here that eats my Phlage, like, so be it. I don't think I am in a hurry to win this game. There is a Candy Trail. Opponent goes bottom, bottom. Here comes the Construct. Choo-choo. Oh, that's a shame what happened to those constructs. And Null Rod. Lol, 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 lol. Ball Therapy resolves. Null Rod might be the name. Let's force it will. Alright, my opponent does hit. That's their 1 spell, though, and then I get to stick Null Rod. Dress Down gets sacrificed. More other Null Rod. Alright, there goes that stuff as mana sources. That's my 1 spell. And that is good enough for my opponent to concede the game. Well, Titania, that is probably the best sort of matchup for us to have High Noon pop off in, right? So, like, having a playset of main deck High Noons supplemented by a pile of sideboard hate backed by Force of Will. I mean, this is the sort of stuff we want to play against, right? GG's. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Profield if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. We've got a pretty reasonable looking hand here that plays a Tamiyo either into a High Noon, Brazen Borrower, or cracking a Clue, depending on what the matchup is looking like. Straight up Eye of Ugin. Hopefully Phlage is removal here. I have 3 land drops. I think I will still go ahead and just play a Tamiyo on 1. The value of my Ponder can change a lot depending on what happens here. Ooh. Glaring Fleshraker is a very scary card. I would like to answer that. I could just play High Noon, and that keeps my opponent to 1 spell. I have 8 1-mana answers to this, and Force of Will is pretty damn good. I think I will go ahead and cast Ponder here. None of those answer, or that I want to answer here. How do I feel about Ponder for removal spell? Or do I just want to try to spike it? Ponder for removal spell will flip Tamiyo, but then I'm only looking at 2 cards with that Ponder. Maybe it's fine. So we'll go ahead and go to Punchies. Punchies for 0, make a Clue. Oh wait, I can just fetch in the middle here. I'm a blue deck. So let's pick up a Tundra. Desperately need white sources here. And Ponder. None of those are what I want. Rainstorm. Just looking at those cards is kind of whatever. Let's shuffle that. Another Phlage. That's perfectly fine. I'll go ahead and Tamiyo plus here. I can Phlage this Glaring Fleshraker on my next turn. But we'll see how bad this turn is for me. Just before this comes up in the comments, because I know it will, why didn't you just petty theft the Glaring Fleshraker? Well, because this costs 1 mana on their next turn. And denying them 1 mana by paying my 2 mana, I don't think puts me in the best position. Oh, jeez. That's a disaster. So, when the stack clears, I'm at 13. Then Linebreaker enters, I'm at 11. Now my opponent can give the Linebreaker haste and either hit me for a lot or kill my Tamiyo. I think it is hit me for a lot. We'll see what my opponent thinks. No, my opponent wants to kill the Tamiyo. Swords is good. I think this is the scariest thing on the board, unfortunately. This is just so much damage. So, we will take out Eldrazi Linebreaker and kind of hope for the best here. Counterspells are offline, not that I have them. If my opponent doesn't have a good follow-up from here, I think I'm okay. Oh god, something else is happening right now. So that is just a small Kozilek's command, but it doesn't need to be very big. I'm at 9 when that clears. And then we get more triggers. I'm at 5. I take 4 immediately. Disgusting. This is turn 4. And I already gained 3 life and removed a creature. Yikes. We'll concede there. Opponent very clearly has it. Alright, the good news is, in theory, I think I'm fine at this matchup, right? Like, I have bolts and Phlage and swords, and Dress Down can sometimes do some cool stuff. And Sign is good. Lavinia is perhaps not. These are slow. What is bad? High Noon is not great. Well, High Noon deals 5 damage. It does kind of get in the way of me cantripping into other stuff, and it is a very inefficient 5 damage. So I think I turn a couple of High Noons into other slightly more efficient removal spells. It's still not great. Like, Prismatic Ending doesn't line up great versus Thought-Knot Seer. It's slow versus something like a Glaring Fleshraker. It still might be fine. And then we start looking at lesser cards like Force of Negation, Wrath of the Skies. And there's sort of a secondary question. Is my opponent playing something like the One Ring that makes me want Null Rod or Force of Negation? I think on the draw I'm going to get rid of all of the High Noons and play a couple of things that hedge against my opponent having the One Ring. And if I'm wrong and they don't have it, this still can cover something like a Kozilek's command. Or excuse me, not on the draw. This is tapped Arena of Glory, turn 2 Lorien revealed. play Tamiyo, have Force of Will interacting. This is kind of slow. I feel like I might get run over, but I'm going to keep it. Force of Will probably gives me some breathing room. The issue is when a Cavern of Souls comes down on like turn 2, after a soul land comes down on turn 1 or something like that. We'll see. Current plan is something like this. Battle resolves. Yeah, I counter that. I will use the counter while I can. Is Tamiyo Ponder better than Tamiyo Cycle Lorien Revealed? Oh, I can't Tamiyo Ponder. This is Arena of Glory. I've answered my own question. We will get Tundra so that I have my colors. And I think I will go ahead and throw the Tamiyo in play. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I was talking about, right? So I'm glad I got to use the Force of Will on turn 1. Okay, Kozilek's Command. That's fine. My opponent gets to cantrip. Alright, cool. I have something good for my opponent's creatures now. I'm actually just going to hold up Dress down. Sometimes it blanks a Thought Not Seer trigger in a very meaningful way. I have Ugin. I mean, yup. So I get to draw a card there. My opponent's Thought Not Seer does not trigger, but it still is going to have the bottom ability after Dress Down leaves. When it leaves the battlefield, I draw a card. So that's great for me. My opponent's creature will cantrip for me, assuming I drag this game on for a little while. That is a Wastescape Battle Mage just as a 2/2. Oh, that's fine. I think I Surveil here. I don't know that I need to remove this immediately. Do blue-white. Tundra? Tundra is medium as a draw. I think I'll shoot for better than medium. Ooh, yeah. That's fine. Do I do that now? I'd rather answer this now. Yeah. Force, then Plateau, then Swords, no Shuffle, remove Thought Not Seer, trigger, draw a card. There's Plateau. I can Lightning Bolt this if I have nothing else to do. I'd rather Phlage it. Lightning Bolt is very good at stopping me from getting punched in the face by Eldrazi Linebreaker. I guess considering the Thought Not Seer, I should have stacked it so that Force of Will is currently in my hand. That's a misplay on my end. I don't think I need Plateau in play right now. Well, we'll see. I guess I still get to use the red mana in my main phase regardless. I'm fine getting hit for 2 here and saving Lightning Bolt and Phlaging this. I don't know, maybe this Phlage needs to be on top of my library so it doesn't get eaten by a Thought Not Seer. That would actually be really annoying. Alright, did not happen. So now I have Phlage, and I have Force of Will or a Kozilek's Command, for example, that would just try to eat the Phlage and a bunch of other cards out of my graveyard. Ooh, no play from my opponent. Love to see that. Palace of the Void on 1. Lightning Bolt feels important. I'm going to go ahead and counter that. My Force of Will is not doing a ton. There's a great reason to have countered it. Tamiyo cracking clues can get me to my next land drop. A Dismember, that's happening. Come on, red land. Nice. We'll get a Volcanic Island. Oh, I guess I actually need to pay attention to what I am taking out of my graveyard because I have Dragon's Rage Channeler, huh? Alright, so I'll take 3 lands. I'll leave 1 land. Leave an instant in there. That's 4 card types. So now I have a large body that doesn't die to Dismember. I have the ability to gain a bunch of life. I can maybe combine a Phlage trigger with a Lightning Bolt. Cats are wilding out there. My opponent's pausing kind of funny. I wonder if they have a Kozilek's Command. Eldrazi Temple. Mana, not a bottleneck on most of their stuff here now. Wasescape Battle Mage. So that's just a bounce. That's fine. Oh. Hey, speak of the devil. There he is. So I'll go ahead and Phlage again. Get ya. And I think at 23 life, I don't need to worry about getting punched in the face once. I'm just going to drop a secondary clock. Ancient Tomb. Grim Monolith. Opponent passes. So we will go to Punchies. I will Punchies for 3 while this is still a 3/3. Opponent's at 14. Then I will Phlage, sending 3 at face there. Opponent's at 11, taking 10 on the surface next turn. I left an enchantment in the graveyard. I might be able to grow this to a 3/3 before I attack with it. But my opponent's life total also might just be low enough that I get them with Phlage plus Lightning Bolt. That's just 12 damage on the surface. Ancient Tomb getting tapped. Alright, there is a Kozilek's command. For X equals 6. 2 top, 4 bottom. Yeah, I don't care if I take some from Eldrazi Linebreaker here. And that's just a vanilla 2/2. That makes my opponent hit me for 1 more damage this turn. So this becomes a 5 power creature. I'll go down to a dubious 21 life. Let's do this prior to the Ponder. I'll send that to Graveyard. So that's instant to Yard, so I don't have to fire off Lightning Bolt preemptively. So this is enchantment, instant, sorcery. Wouldn't mind casting another one of those. I think I will go bam, 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 no shuffle, cast a Ponder, surveil the land into Graveyard. This is a 3/3. Those cards are now mid. I'd rather just find a 1-mana removal spell or a Phlage. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Oh, it means I'm not holding up Lightning Bolt, though. Send in for 3. I probably don't die from 21 life to Eldrazi Linebreaker, right? Let's just put my opponent at lethal multiple different ways. So these 2 creatures both attacking in the air is lethal, or one of them plus Lightning Bolt is also lethal. We're going to another game. I think I'm good with how I've sideboarded. Alright, I had to step away for 1 second. Looks like opponent is kicking off the game with Devourer of Destiny. I have an okay opening hand in terms of addressing creatures. And hopefully I just don't get run over super quickly. I'm going to hold up Swords and Brainstorm simultaneously here. A Swords can potentially prevent a lot of damage from Glaring Fleshraker or Eldrazi Linebreaker. Brainstorm is less important here. A lot of times you might want to brainstorm in response to something like Chalice of the Void to find an answer to that, but we already have Prismatic Ending, and as long as I funnel 2 mana into that, that's not getting countered by Chalice. If my opponent doesn't do anything scary, I will still probably brainstorm, purely to put a card into my graveyard. Alright, there's Cavern. Counterspells are off the table. There's Linebreaker. So, that does not get to stick around, obviously. That card is horrifying. I will hold up Dress Down in respect of a Thought-Knot Seer. This is probably a turn cycle where I would prefer to brainstorm and fetch. This was an untapped land. I could Dress Down directly into Phlage in play, which would be cool. Big mana. I think I let that resolve and ending it away. Alright, no other play from my opponent. I'm using 2 mana towards Prismatic Ending, which means it's okay to Thundering Falls. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to use Dress Down to just cantrip here. And sometimes I have the upside of just, oops, accidentaling a Phlage into play. I think I'm okay with that. I think I do Plateau here so that any land I draw will give me Phlage's escape cost. Press down. Okay, yeah, we will oops accidentally a Phlage into play. Yeah, can deal with Chalice later. Now we don't deal, the 3 immediate damage, but I think having a 6/6 Lightning Helix stick in play is perfectly acceptable. My opponent does have ways to answer this, but hopefully they don't. They've got something end of turn. That's a small Kozilek's command, rather than one that is just being used to exile my Phlage. That might just mean that they have another. Wasteland's annoying, but I do have a bunch of mana. Hopefully there's not like a big Ugin here. Ah, right, the Devourer of Destiny from the beginning of the game. Okay. Those are reasonable plays. Phlage plus Lightning Bolt will eventually answer that. I think I am into getting rid of Chalice, and I really would like to play Thundering Falls, and I think it is just correct to hold up Lightning Bolt, unfortunately. Eldrazi Linebreaker in particular just represents so much burst damage. Hey, it's Eldrazi Linebreaker. Ooh, don't love these wastelands. Yes. I'll take this opportunity. Need to cast a red spell, so this is Volk. Take out Linebreaker, and then hopefully I can find a Swords to Plowshares to answer this, and then probably stabilize with Phlage from there. Alright. I lose a Volk. I get hit for about a third of my life total. That's a pretty bad draw. Hopefully I can get rid of that with like Brainstorm plus Thundering Falls here. Oh no. I can get rid of one with Thundering Falls, but I can't play Ponder right now. There's multiple Wastelands. Super noticeable. So I think I go bam, bam, Thundering Falls, bin a force. Goodbye. Play Dragon's Rage Channeler. And I'll have a choice about whether I use this as 1 red mana gains 6 life, or whether I use it to try and dig deeper. Never mind. Illusion of choice. That's more land from my opponent. So it is purely, if I answer this, I win. I'm at 5. So I can Phlage here and go up to 8 and survive another turn. And if I am at 2 life, I can fetch and play Phlage the following turn to trade with this. That might be better than pondering, and if I miss on swords, just losing the game. So that goes at face. Now, because of Cavernous Souls, I can't Force of Will something like an Eldrazi Linebreaker that comes down. Looks like that's not happening, so that's good. I'm at 2. It is a Tamiyo. So I can flip that, or sorry, I can use that as a chump blocker if my opponent does not have a Dismember. I think I'm going to look for a swords. I could just take a land, play Tamiyo this turn, block, and then play Phlage. This card could be Dismember. Could put Consign into my hand right now. But if I do that, and I go to 1 to Force of Will, I can't then Scalding Tarn fetch. Tricky. I think I will go for the Tamiyo block line. Yeah, I will go for the Tamiyo block line. That lets me cast Phlage next turn. Alright, is it another Dismember? It's not another Dismember. Dead to plenty of things here. Remember Kozilek's Command, another Devourer of Destiny. Eldrazi Linebreaker. But I'm probably stable if it makes it back around to my turn. Fuck, it's another Devourer of Destiny. Which can't be countered. Force of Will would not have helped me there. My opponent punches me in the face, and they take this one down. Margins were tight on that one. GG's. Okay, opening hand is fine here. I don't really know what I need to do with the Ponder yet, so I think I'm going to Meticulous Archive, and unless the card looks really good, I'm just going to send it into my graveyard to feed Phlage. That's a weird one. That can give me an early Phlage. I think I'll keep that. I might not play that on turn 2. Depending on what I see on the other side of the battlefield, I might just play High Noon. Like, if there is anything that gives potential combo vibes, I just slam High Noon on turn 2, I think. I could dress down in respect of this being Reanimator. But then there's other stuff like Doomsday where playing High Noon is much better. Polluted Delta is correct. Represents too many things in Legacy right now. The issue here is that if my opponent is Reanimator and they just go Entomb, Reanimate, I don't get to ponder into remove a card immediately. I dodged that bullet, which is good. Scalding Tarn. Dress down around days, ponder on my turn into dress down on my opponent's turn. Lots of ways to play this here. I think I'm going to go dress down around days. I think if I ponder and my opponent has Orcish Bowmasters resolves 100% of the time, and I can't use whatever spell I find off the ponder to immediately answer it. Is a Surveil land. Opponent keeps their card, I don't get any additional information. Potentially Grixis Control here. If this is Grixis Control, some of the things like Snapcaster Mage are going to be noticeably worse because of High Noon. I think I'm okay with using my mana to cast a Dress Down here. I will draw my card. I pick up a Force of Will. That's not bad. I'll probably Meticulous Archive here. I already Meticulous Archived. I guess I will Thundering Falls then. That is a medium power level card. There are absolutely things like Orcish Bowmasters that I would like to remove. But this is not a threat. I think I'll send it to Yard. Sure. So I will Phlage. I'm not going to get the Enter the Battlefield trigger here because of Dress Down, but this also means that I just have a 6/6 in play. Force of Will pitching a Snapcaster Mage. I don't get to Force of Will back because of my High Noon. Now I will sacrifice a Dress Down, but my opponent also doesn't get to use their mana because of High Noon, so it does go both ways. I have 3 cards in graveyard, 4 cards in graveyard towards Phlage. This might mean that I want to aggressively Force of Will if my opponent does something here. Yeah, I will just aggressively Force of Will that. Is that true? I can just prismatic ending it and not Phlage immediately. Yeah, I will just prismatic ending that. I'll go to 18. Let's take out Bowmaster. Red and white, or 2 colors. All right, resolves, great. Now, the annoying thing here would be if my opponent has Kaito and puts it in via ninjutsu so that I can't Force of Will. 17. Okay, cool. Opponent just passing the turn. Hardcast Force of Will is online. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5. Get a Tundra. Still fine making the land drop. Do this with haste. We'll clear out my whole graveyard. We'll see what my opponent, what my opponent has to say about this. It looks like hardcast Force of Will. And again, because of my own High Noon, I don't get to Force of Will this back, and I also don't get to play my Dragon's Rage Channeler afterwards, which is kind of a big deal. At the same time, though, my opponent's Snapcaster Mage, which is not looking very good right now, would not be doing anything. My opponent's just holding it back. I'm not sure why. What are they playing around? I think I'm Stifle Knot, Doorkeeper Thrall. That's actually reasonable. The Arena of Glory doesn't untap, so I can't do a hasty DRC here. Swords is kind of whatever. I am fine doing this. It is not an impressive card right now. And it's going to eat it to a Bowmaster's. That's fine. I'm much happier trading with that than Bowmaster's just getting a ton of value. My opponent does attack this time. I will take that. I'm at 15. And we're chilling. I don't want all of this land. I'm also very frustrated by the fact that, like, Bowmasters is so good at me because I can't force or Swords to Plowshares in response, but I think I am supposed to cast this spell. All of this feels mid. What do I actually want to draw? Tamiyo? I think I might just take this stuff. With Bolt on bottom, take Brazen Borrower, have the ability to fetch and clear, and if my opponent doesn't do anything else, I will just Brazen Borrower this token to use my mana. And I know my opponent can't cast another spell, so I'll just take care of that so I don't keep taking chip damage. And then I think I will fetch and clear, grab a new Tundra, call it a turn. I think I intentionally skipped my land drop last turn and I'm punished for it because I don't have enough cards in graveyard to get Phlage out right now. Oops. I don't need to deal that much damage to my opponent to put them in a bad spot. Florian revealed. I will Force a Will of shit out of that. Because High Noon effectively means that my opponent is at 11, so it doesn't take very much to kill my opponent. Oh, another Phlage. Cool. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This will be 5. Grab a Volk. We will go for the haste here. See if my opponent has an immediate answer. I imagine the answer is yes. I don't know whether it's going to be Force or Fatal Push or whatever, but I imagine my opponent answers this most of the time. Now I can do a Brazen Borrower on their turn. Other land drop from my opponent. Feels like opponent is thinking about casting something and is not doing it. End of turn, I'll go for the Brazen Borrower. Again, Orcish Bowmaster's pretty darn good against it. So that's my opponent's one spell for this turn, meaning my Brazen Borrower is resolving. I will attempt to crash in for 3. Opponent goes to 12. I think I'm just gonna go the burn route here and play Phlage. Just 3 damage at face. In thinking about my graveyard as a resource, I don't know that this is going to do a meaningful amount of damage. So this might be better saved to just put back with a Brainstorm. One more Brazen Borrower hit is lethal with High Noon. There is a Kaito. So my opponent can stun Brazen Borrower. Oh, no. Lump and Ponder in the graveyard. So my opponent now needs something that answers Brazen Borrower, or they're dead on board to High Noon. Send it face. And whatever they play, I just Force of Will, and I kill them next turn with High Noon instead. Seems fine. The Grixis deck is probably not answering my enchantment. 5. Boy, the High Noon play patterns were super weird this game. I think it was a net positive for me, but it's really hard to tell. Stun is fine. So Kaito will hit me for a couple points of damage, and it is hexproof, so I don't get to Swords to Plowshares it. Yo, dog, I heard you like Kaito, so we Kaito'd your Kaito. That's very funny. I don't think I've ever seen that come up before as relevant. So now my opponent can surveil with their other resources. Ooh, that's a Goyf. That's a very good card that I have an answer to that I just simply will not answer. 5 to face. Got him. Turn 13. Let's go. I probably don't need Force of Will. I can probably just play these for the Kaito and Murktide style cards. Maybe Hydroblast. Hydroblast is less good, but still can stop some red removal or something. Prismatic Ending for 3 mana answers Goyf. I don't think I'm boarding out my High Noons. I think I go Prismatic Ending for Bowmasters. I know it didn't like really come up, but Bowmasters can be scary against some of this stuff in my clues. So just having too many answers to that is probably fine. There's going to be some times where we sit there and stare at each other because I have a fistful of removal. Hopefully that is fine at the end of the day. This looks fine to me. I have both of my colors. I have 4 threats. I have 2 land drops. Basic Island and Ponder. Oh, buddy. We have threats for days. DRC number 1. If I draw another natural red land, I can just have 3 of these in play as of turn 2. Oh, no. Okay, there is a second land. You're just a second main phase hipster. Fatal Push is fine. I have so many of these. So I will Lorien Revealed. And now it's a little interesting. If I want to keep the pressure up, I should just get a Volk and do DRC. I'm going to assume that this game goes long enough that I can find white mana in other ways. This is a what matters more tempo or mana fixing situation. Sure. And I think the answer is that the tempo matters a lot there. It didn't happen this time, but there's times where my opponent can't use Island to remove that, and so they have to use mana on their own turn to do that. It is a straight up Hymn to Turok. Double Phlage to graveyard. White land would be great. Brainstorm. Let's do this first. I think I am game with doing this. Then I'm going to Brainstorm while Bowmasters is not up. Enchantment to graveyard is perfect. This is a 3/3 and now doesn't eat it to Bowmasters. And I can get rid of a card here. And it's probably the High Noon that I can't cast. Let's hide Tamiyo from discard. Put High Noon on top. Thundering Falls, send High Noon to graveyard. Phlage is not immediately available. I need 2 white mana to work towards that. It is not a fetch land. Baleful Strix is slightly annoying. I will Lightning Bolt it. So I draw the Tamiyo that I do want. I will attempt to Lightning Bolt Strix. Brainstorm. I'm just going to say no to that. Brainstorm is an awesome card. I think I'm going to respect Bowmasters, despite the fact that I have a Tamiyo here, and just say no to that. Send in. Opponent's at 15. And then I will deploy Tamiyo. I really want to find white mana so that Swords is live on Goyf. I'm also actively trying to be cognizant of my clock. There's a very good chance we go to a game 3 and this match ends up being decided by timeout. I think we played like a 14-turn game for game 1. Another Swords. This is my opponent's chance to remove Tamiyo before I get a clue. Culligan's Command. Is that making me discard as the other mode? Yes. Strix is obviously great here. I will pick up my clue. Deal my opponent 3. Like to find white mana here. Lightning Bolt's not bad, honestly. Lightning Bolt means that I get to kill Strix without using Swords to Plowshares. There's Strix. I think I'm going to bolt it before my opponent gets another card. Hydroblasts and Blue Blasts and such are absolutely a thing. Phlage is so important. I'm going to keep the white land here, even though at this stage of the game you would often be surveilling lands away. This also just means that Swords to Plowshares is live if there's another Strix or a Goyf or whatever. Alright, DRC goes down before Tamiyo. I'm not sure if that is the correct call. Like, very, very legitimately unsure about that. I think Tamiyo is stronger. I get to crack this clue before Bowmasters is live. Yeah. And yeah. Alright, there is my next land for Phlage. This is great. And I can also do a white Surveil land at end of turn. Lorien Revealed. From the Catacombs. Okay, so this is not going to work out how my opponent wants, right? Well, I guess it kind of does, because they remove my Tamiyo, but then it didn't escape, so my opponent has to sacrifice it. It does go to exile. So this was a 5-mana removal spell that gave my opponent the initiative, and it does have escape itself, I suppose. Maybe this is fine. I'll surveil. I'd like to find another threat, probably. Not another land. That's another threat. Fantastic. So, fetch, get white, go Phlage, land, creature, instant, do Phlage, send it your face for 3, go to 12, Tamiyo. Now, opponent can go to Lost Well. Is this any graveyard? Yes, this is a graveyard. My opponent could, in theory, get a Baleful Strix, but that's not that impactful right now. I think I'm going to save some marginal seconds here and just F6 my opponent's turns when I'm tapped out. So I think we are reaching that point. Another land. How many cards is it? 5 cards? 5 cards. Alright, opponent is not escaping it. Oh, nice. Send in. Triggers. 3 damage at face. Tamiyo Clue. There is a Snapcaster Mage. That's what this is for. Counter the shit out of that. Nice. So this is big here. I get the initiative. I don't think I have a basic island in my deck. I am fine cracking the blue now. I have swords for if my opponent has bowmasters. Another Phlage is fine. So now there is a sub game of if I ever get to trap, my opponent dies. And a Phlage trigger is lethal. A DRC attack is lethal. A High Noon activation is lethal. I mean, him to Turok's not bad. It's like less good with Tamiyo being able to do the Tamiyo things. My opponent could now from the catacombs and get a Phlage to gain 3 life, kill my Tamiyo, and then die to the Phlage attack. They could have more resources. Okay, they are just calling it there. GG's. Really cool match, but very warped match. Alright, opponent says hello. I have an okay start that is going to require some more mana. I'm going to hope that I just don't get wastelanded, and I'm going to play DRC here. My hope is that I naturally draw another land, so I can go 2 DRC and then ponder and double surveil at the same time. That's the dream. Flooded Strand. Classic basic island and a Tamiyo. I have a Swords to Plowshares for that, but not the mana for it immediately. Am I willing to give my opponent 1 Tamiyo trigger to do the line that I talked about previously? I think I am. This is potentially attacking for a very large amount of damage very quickly. So let's ponder. We're going to be very aggressive with banning stuff here, as I want a bunch of card types. I need that, so we'll keep that on top. Yeah, Force is bad. The rest of the stuff is good. We'll do Force on bottom. Send in. They blocked. So this is fine. I will Swords Tamiyo, and then I will have... Fuck! Well, hopefully I just power through and kill Tamiyo anyway. I just cast a High Noon and double Surveil. Yeah, that's fine. So... these are currently attacking for no damage. That's still fine? I think that's still fine. So I know that my top card is Force of Will, which is an instant. So, bam. High Noon, Surveil trigger, Force of Will to graveyard, Thundering Falls to graveyard, High Noon resolves, go to Punchies, send at Tamiyo, or exactly 4. Very nice. So, I now have 6 power on board. I have shit else going on. I don't have any card advantage, I don't have any top end, but I have 6... Oh, are you missing a land drop? Oh, that is a bad time to be missing a land drop. This is so much damage. Oh. I mean, that'll buy some time. That was a pitch card that gained 4 life. Opponent's at 17. I will cast another High Noon just to double Surveil here. Instant to graveyard. Other instant to graveyard. I will hopefully just attack. Yeah, I've got that covered. I think I'll do that on my own turn, though. I kind of want to Surveil land here. Meticulous Archive. Lightning Bolt? That's just a fine draw. So, land drop. I'm going to Swords Tamiyo, give my opponent 0 life. Surveil, enchantment to graveyard, land to graveyard. I really was planning on fetching that land, so that's a little inconvenient. That's my one spell. I don't get to Lightning Bolt here. I'll Lightning Bolt on my opponent's turn, though. Pretty much 100% of the time. Lightning Bolt, the face. Force of Will to graveyard. We got 3 of them in there now. Swords to Plowshares. I'm just going to stay to graveyard with that. Opponent's at 12. Ponder is fine. I don't have a sorcery in my graveyard yet. So, Ponder. Say no to that land. Opponent says no. Yeah, that's damage. Brainstorm I'll keep. Yeah, this is fine. Bam, bam, bam. Send in for 6. So this is lethal next turn, and if this game goes on a little longer, I just High Noon. I don't remember if I said it, but my opponent gave us a no in the chat when I did Surveil properly. So we have seen Island, Endurance, Delighted Halfling. We could be playing against Nadu combo. That's kind of where I'm going to assume we are going. You answer Green Suns. You answer Nadu's on the stack. You clear all the bullshit. You clear little mana dorks. You stop Green Sun as well, but you stop Phlage. Maybe I can't play you here. Maybe I shouldn't have that card in my deck at all. I think I'm getting rid of Force of Will. I think I am trying to do a lot of 1-for-1s. I think I trim, but don't get rid of High Noon. High Noon is just a removal spell that can float in play for Nadu. That is no land. That's land. Rust Down is probably the slowest thing here. I will get rid of that. Misty Rainforest to kick things off. Basic and a Tamiyo. Which I will just red Elemental Blast immediately, I think. Swords is more flexible as a removal spell, and there are going to be things like Endurance that I need to hit in the mid-game that red Elemental Blast will miss. If my opponent is Nadu, the big thing that red Elemental Blast does is stop Nadu from hitting play directly. Do a Valk this time, or again rather, as it casts both DRC and this Brainstorm that I suspect I am casting next turn. DRC in play. Basic Forest, Noble Hierarch. I don't know if I am removing that. I would rather use like a Phlage trigger to remove that than something like a Swords. That can just go to graveyard. That's instant land enchantment. This is too much mana. I think I'm going to answer this with Swords next turn and just attack for 1. 18. And this leaves my Swords for something stronger, like an Endurance or Nadu that comes down. Do I want a Swords now? I don't think so. Alright, back to hand. Hierarch not attacking. Maybe go Meticulous Archive here. I'll say no to that. So, Phlage trigger on Hierarch or Teferi. I think Teferi. But it does create a very scary window where my opponent can go land drop Nadu plus thing that combos with Nadu, and I could effectively die. But if I get rid of Teferi, then on future turns I can Swords on my opponent's turn and have interaction. There's a Brainstorm for mana efficiency at end of turn. Alright, there's land drop. There is Nadu. Damn it. Yep, there's a Shaman in core. So my opponent now gets 6 activations now, 6 activations later. And I just decide how long I want to sit here before I concede. So there's the pile of cards that my opponent has access to. Not that one. So we're just going again. I'm going to attempt to remove this Nadu from play. My opponent will do this whole thing all over again. Play gone. A few clicks later, my opponent has picked up 2 lands, but I think my spell is resolving. Nope. We're just going to turn Endurance into a couple more cards. Just 2 more activations. Where's a replacement Nadu? Oh, after all of that, do you have a counterspell? Yep. At this point, my Phlage isn't actually going to kill this. My opponent can just redirect the damage I guess I can take a draw, but this is a valid counterspell. Yeah, so this doesn't actually kill this creature. I'm good to concede here. I think I'll run things back the same way. Alright, opening hand is fine. We'll be getting a Valk and playing a Tamiyo, and it has resolved. I do have Brainstorm to transform this into the Planeswalker, assuming that that is what I want to do. I think it is. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment, notably not Planeswalker. Send it. I think I just play Plateau prior to the Brainstorm, so that I can Red Elemental Blast in response to a Force of Will. Didn't need it. These cards on top aren't great. I get rid of Dress Down, and I'm really not ready for Phlage without the extra land. I guess Lorien Revealed gets me the land. I could get rid of Tamiyo and just keep the highest density of removal possible. Okay. Tamiyo plus. I think I'm going to go ahead and just Lightning Bolt this for tempo, and then set a stop here to cycle. Misty from my opponent. There's a Tamiyo. I can deal with that any number of different ways. Upkeep. Island cycle for a Tundra, so I have white. Honestly, I might just Tamiyo minus here. I think I'm going to Tamiyo minus here on Lightning Bolt, and attempt to Lightning Bolt Tamiyo as a creature. This lets me save Red Elemental Blast for a Nadu directly. Opponent fetches on their own turn. Wasteland is very good against me right now. There's a Teferi. I'll deal with that in a second. You're just going to eat my clue? You're going to eat my clue. So I will Tamiyo plus. I think this is just a Phlage turn. Red, white, 1. Use this to finish off Teferi. I can have Red Elemental Blast and such up on future turns. But I could absolutely just lose effectively to Nadu plus Nomads immediately. If it happens, there's a Tamiyo. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4 in graveyard. Can't get Phlage back immediately. I don't love this. I'm gonna Phlage. Use this to eat my opponent's Tamiyo. Sacrifice this. I plus my Tamiyo. But my opponent can Wasteland me off of Volcanic Island, so Red Elemental Blast is not live immediately, and potentially combo me off. Hoping that doesn't happen. Ooh, it's Endurance. That getting both of my Phlages at the same time is rough. There's timelines where I get 2 Wrath of the Skies that. So my Tamiyo takes 2. There's a Shaman. Cool. Opponent did not Wasteland me. Hopefully I draw a land. That is not quite what I meant. I'll say no to Lightning Bolt. This is 1 power. My Tamiyo is not dying. I'm going to say that's fine then. And then hopefully I Wrath of the Skies for either 2 or 3 of my opponent's creatures. I have Dress Down to maybe make it through the turn. So I'll take 2 on my Tamiyo, which means that my Tamiyo is not gaining or losing loyalty. I'm just staying neutral. Oh, those Wastelands are very good. Go to red. Go to end step. I think here I go ahead and just cycle Dress Down. Arena of Glory, not what I'm looking for. My own Tamiyo. It is awkward with my plan of X equals 3 Wrath of the Skies. Not sure if I should play it. I think I'm going to, but it's a little weird. What is the swords? That is happening. And I guess that's something that doesn't hit my Phlage later. Okay. Sorry, I got interrupted by a phone call. I think I have to counter that. I think the plan is counter that, hope to clear the board with this. If I don't clear the board with this, I might need to Tamiyo minus and just get that blast back because I'm very afraid of Nadu. Tamiyo gets knocked back down a peg. Brazen Borrower. I can continue to try to make this game about this Tamiyo, or I can just get a Red Elemental Blast and hope to clear both of these boards with Wrath of the Skies and be safe versus Nadu. I think I am going to be safe versus Nadu. Just gut feeling, I think my opponent has played around my stuff all game because they knew about my Red Elemental Blast because I returned it with Tamiyo previously. Raucous. Good card is good. I'll take 4. Thunder is not what I'm looking for. Swords is fine. I'm fine taking Swords and Scalding Tarn of these. I'll just kind of use my life total as a resource a little bit here. Ooh, I swords the endurance, though. Could see doing that. And that might just make my opponent commit another thing to the board for Wrath of the Skies. I'll take 1. Going to 20. I think I'm just going to make this land drop and pass the turn. Okay, that's fine. That's another thing for Delighted Halfling. Or sorry, for Wrath of the Skies. Wasteland is slightly annoying, but ultimately fine. So now I will Surveil with my other land. Swords is okay. I'm just going to take it. So now I will Wrath of the Skies and get 2 of these. So I want 1. Still could eat Nadu plus Shamans. And Wasteland can stop me from doing my thing. Oh, this is frustrating. I think I'm doing this. This Nadu deck is fucking horrifying. Alright, take both those out. Yeah. But if I don't take out the Halfling there, then I don't get to Red Elemental Blast Nadu on the stack, unless I also use swords on it. Yes. Okay, cool. This really sucks in terms of value. I can take this Nadu off the board. It just gives my opponent a bunch of value. I think I do it on their turn. I think I try to bounce it as my starting point. Wasteland. Annoying. I'll float. God, that's so fucking annoying, because now I won't have Red Elemental Blast to counter it on the way back down like I planned. Yeah. That was the 4th Wasteland, by the way. Okay, so now Nadu has... This is the 2nd Nadu activation. Now I can permanently answer this one. I'm going to do it with swords, so I have Red Elemental Blast available to back it up on the off chance that there's a counterspell. Oh, and it hits another land drop out of that. And my Petty Theft is countered. I hate the play patterns against this deck so much. Yeah. I will, I think, Lightning Bolt the Tamiyo. Then have Containment Priest to ambush a Delighted Halfling in combat. I don't get to have Red Elemental Blast up because my opponent had all 4 Wastelands this game. Yes. Alright, cool. We do at least get a little freebie. I don't get a freebie. Alright, I take 1. Alright, Brainstorm. It's not Volk. I don't have a Phlage in here, right? I think I'm going to give up Red Elemental Blast. Fetch, clear, and just try to find something proactive to do. I need red, so let's go Volk. I think Ponder off of... Or no, that was wrong. Oh, these are fine cards. Bam, bam, bam. Don't shuffle. I don't remember if we're in game 2 or game 3 or what. I had to pause very briefly for a phone call in the middle of this match. Red Elemental Blast, Caracas, Nadu, Shaman. If I Red Elemental Blast the Nadu, my opponent Caracases it out of play and then can redo all of these triggers. That is incredibly frustrating. I guess I'll make them see the line. I think it is a very easy line. I think you just activate all these times, bounce Caracas, and replay it, and then do it all again. Okay, so my opponent did a bunch of activations. What happened to the Nadu? Okay, they did return it with Caracas. Now my opponent gets to replay it, and at this point, the game is not worth playing anymore. GG's. Nadu is just exceptionally good against anything that looks like my deck, unfortunately. Okay, as a heads up, I am recording this one many hours after the last 4 rounds. Long story short, I installed a thermostat and a bunch of gutters today, and the league ended in the meantime. So we are going to play 1 round of a new league to finish out this league, as Edge of Eternities came online this afternoon, and the normal league structure reset. Bookshelf snaky. I'm going to get to flip a Tamiyo here. Is probably good versus Tundra, if I were to guess. Rainstorm. Oh, shit, and a new Tamiyo? Hell yeah. Put back you. The rest of this stuff is pretty reasonable. I don't know how good Swords to Plowshares is yet. I think I'm just going to keep it. Is it just Ponder? Like, I'm going to play Tamiyo anyway. I've got clues to crack with my mana, and I have an endgame threat. It might just be Ponder. Tamiyo pluses. I will pick up a Tundra, and then throw down the other side of Tamiyo. Volcanic Island. It's an energy deck. Or Ajani, sure. I've got Phlage to help out with this. This isn't so bad. Ooh. This is 4 cards in graveyard towards Phlage stuff. Plateau here for variety. Phlage. Take out the Ajani first. I think I will go ahead and plus this. Tamiyo gets attacked for 2. Do I want a clue, or do I want Tamiyo to be attacked for 1? I think I would like a clue. And then I have some combination of bring back Phlage, double swords, Tamiyo nonsense coming. Brainstorm's fine. The draw to playing a Jeskai energy deck is that you have cantrips to string things together, and that you get Mockingbird to copy your Guide of Souls and Ocelot Prides and all that jam. Not going to clear. Yeah, Mockingbird. Opponent presumably then copies Amped Raptor and then can play whatever they just put back. Yeah, that's cute. There's a lot of dudes. Tamiyo Plus is really going to do some heavy lifting. I think I just keep doing it. Yeah. Fetch. White, white, blue, blue. I might actually want another Tundra. I think I said blue, blue instead of white, white. Long day. Very, very, very long day. Let's Phlage. A superb spot for a counterspell from my opponent. And they do indeed have it. I think this turn I'm not going to attack with Tamiyo, and I will hold back a blocker. Arid Mesa. See what my opponent has. Assuming I keep this Tamiyo alive for a little while. Ooh. My Swords to Plowshares nonsense probably does a lot of work. Yes. Another Mockingbird would be rough. So opponent went with Ajani, which I think is objectively just the correct call. The Planeswalker here is disgusting. My opponent has so many bodies in play. I think I have 1 Prismatic Ending main deck. Oh, this is so gross. How many board wipey thingies do I have? I have 1 Wrath of the Skies. Yeah, there goes my Planeswalker. And it also just has 7 fucking energy. So it can do Guide of Souls things twice. That is a lot of love. So even through the Tamiyo emblem, I'm still just taking a lot of damage. I can swords. I don't know that my current resources are getting me to where I need to go. I think I just have to draw. I don't know. The onboard stuff is just disgusting already. Like, I can bounce this out of play. It comes back down double this. I can take out 2 Guide of Souls and then be attacked for 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 4 of which I can block. I'm going to tap out here. That was gross. My opponent needed that counterspell for Phlage. Hydroblast seems good. Wrath of the Skies and Prismatic Ending are great. Containment Priest technically can do some stuff against like Amped Raptor nonsense. Pyroblasts and Red Elemental Blasts have targets. I don't know if they are good. High Noon technically does some stuff against Amped Raptor. I'm not sure how much I should hedge against Amped Raptor specifically. And these are okay versus a Mockingbird on the stack, but once it's in play, it's going to be white most of the time. I, in theory, have a lot of removal. Swords, Lightning Bolt, Phlage, Prismatic Ending, Wrath of the Skies, Hydroblast. Doing this and not impacting the board immediately is kind of a big deal. It's more reasonable on the play than draw. I think I'm cutting at least 2 of these. I don't know that I can 2-for-1 myself either. My opponent is so very good at generating value. Do these just get me out of the early game and get me to Phlage and such? Unsure. Maybe I keep the High Noons on the play, round out with 1 force. And then on the draw, I play more forces to try to just stop my opponent's early stuff. I'm going to assume that this Ponder finds a removal spell, and that this hand is actually fine. So between 2 draw steps and a Ponder, I would like to find a land and a removal spell. And it's like not the worst if I miss one of the 2. Need to remove this upkeep stop before it annoys me too much. Bulk, DRC, move that stop. Arid Mesa, Guide of Souls. Okay, that's real good. Now I will give up my DRC if I end up casting this. This card is kind of bonkers. I think I'm going to play High Noon. This is less necessary with these 3 cards here. I am going to get rid of this and try to find land. Land just unlocks so much here. Is a Daze. I mean, that is also just going to keep my opponent from casting multiple spells immediately, giving me time for Phlage and Wrath of the Skies to come online. I think I'm ultimately fine with that. Opponent can send in for 1, that's fine. 18. Mockingbird. Find a white source, yo. Prismatic Ending. That's not the white source that I'm looking for. This is going to turn my creature into a 3/3. Tamiyo. I'm going to say no, given that I want to play Wrath of the Skies. None of those are land. I'm going to shuffle that. That is also not a land. I guess then I am going to Prismatic Ending one of these away in the short term. Still just respecting the fact that I might get run over if I don't. Send in for 3. Opponent on 2 mana. I, in theory, would rather see 2 1-drops here, I think. Ponder's fine. I might be able to get 6 to 9 points of damage out of DRC before it goes away, which would be cool. I have a very stocked graveyard for Phlage, and if Phlage triggers can go at face instead of at creatures, that would be cool. I'll take 1. Very much not getting what I need. I'll send in for 3, and hopefully I can get some cool dress down value. Brainstorm is fine. Land drop. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Dress down. Land I keep. Another days. Alright, do your thing. For a ponder. Not contributing extra bodies to board. Sort of annoyingly, the Guide of Souls might get outside of a Phlage trigger in the short term. I imagine my opponent just uses the energy here. Yep. I get hit for 3. So, I guess we use one of these. And boy, I hope my opponent does not have a surgical extraction, because that would be rough. This is yet another daze. Well, this is an obligatory attack, so that's happening. Opponent's at 11, and see how bad this gets. Don't love that. Taking 5 here. I don't have red for Phlage. I think this is a Wrath of the Skies for X equals 2 and try to clear the board. Send it. Opponent's at 9. This is unfortunately a tap out situation if I want to clear the Amped Raptor, which I do. Prevail. Brainstorm can go. I am fine having 2 Phlages. Those are just 2 removal spells. I will pay. The board is clear. I have access to 3 total Phlages. Ooh. No movement from my opponent. A High Noon. 3 damage, 6 damage, 9 damage, all to face. What does my opponent have in hand? Blast, Swords to Plowshares. Amped Raptor is one of the scarier draws, and I can play High Noon to make that card considerably worse, or I can just try to 3-turn clock my opponent with Phlages. This is also just representing 5 damage. Let's fire this off. I don't mind the little bit of safety here. That's fine. Alright. This is red mana then. Bulk. Red, red, white, white. Leave 1 land. Take out an enchantment. Take out a sorcery. Take out a creature. Take out an instant. 5 cards in graveyard still. Show me a blast. It's a Force of Will instead. Alright. Reasonable. I will try again next turn. And all future turns. Okay. Maybe not immediately. Opponent has 1 card left, though. And not enough energy to pay for Guide of Souls. Brainstorm. Sure. Seen most of the dazes already. Ah, Pyroblast. You've got it. Oh, that's my 1. Okay, that was a reason to not do that. My bad. Was not dialed in on High Noon. Objective mistake. I should have waited to cast that until my turn. I take 1 more damage for that. Hopefully that is not too relevant. Okay. It's actually very relevant given that draw. So I'm gonna go to 5. Get a red source out of deck. I will Phlage. Still have 4 card types in graveyard. Trigger. I'm going to remove this, but my opponent just sacrifices it in response. I'll go to 4, which is hopefully fine. I could go at face there. I didn't do math for whether or not Ajani as the top deck kills me. Probably should have. We just kind of exhausted my opponent out of resources there with Wrath of the Skies. That's a singleton, though. I can't rely on that happening again. My general plan seems fine. How do I feel about the High Noons? They're a lot worse on the draw. They are removable as things go long. I think they're very slow versus Amped Raptor and Friends on the draw. I think I'm going to turn 3 of those back into Force of Will to just make sure we get into the mid game that I'm pretty good at. Oh, that's Wrathless, guys. My singleton in hand. That's very good. Greedy Keep. See what my opponent has. That, I think I let resolve. Phlage. Going to play Tamiyo as a... No, I'm going to just ponder for land. It's not a very blue hand. I think if I Force of Will, I want it to be this. Lorien Revealed is a guaranteed land. Let's say that that's fine. Bam, bam, bam. Well, I guess it's not a guaranteed land if I get Wastelanded, right? But outside of that, it is. Fuck. That's obviously so bad. Now I have to Force of Will that. I have some bad cards that I need to draw through. We have days too. We're dead. I even was disciplined and pondered on turn 1 to like secure my land drops, and it did not work out. So my opponent gets some cat friends and thus more energy, and then I know that I'm drawing that brainstorm. I think if my next card down is not a land, I am just outright dead. Oh my god. That is going to be so many cats. It's also lifelink for what it's worth. Yeah. Okay, that next card down is a Tamiyo. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably 9, 10. Not be on curve for Wrath of the Skies. That was rough. GG's. I don't remember my exact record here. I think it's something like a 2-3. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Not bad for a first attempt. I don't know that High Noon is something that you should build around, but if you want to build around it, I think this is a good way to do it. The burn potential of Bolt plus Phlage plus High Noon is a lot of end game reach. Not early game reach, but very, very end game reach. I'm not going to claim that the specifics of the sideboard are correct. So I threw in an assorted pile of Graveyard Hate into the sideboard. I just wanted varied things. I don't think Grafdigger's Cage works here. This is a very powerful card, but I think with 4x Phlage being the primary way that you actually win the game, you just don't get to shut that off. I'd maybe turn Cage into another Surgical or Fairy or anything of that general nature. I really liked the Null Rods and Lavinias and Containment Priest style cards. Having varied 8 versus combo in the form of like artifacts, enchantments, and things on the stack, I think would be kind of a nightmare for the average combo opponent. Now, I don't have some of the dazes that you might see in Game 1 from other blue decks. I don't have as much free interaction as I can, but I think you have a lot of ways to steal games versus Storm players and the equivalent. I'm honestly going to give this one a thumbs up. I felt pretty good about this. I don't think the deck building is perfect. I'm sure the mana isn't perfect. Sideboard's not perfect. But I think there is a cool core here that you could mess around with and not be embarrassed. At the end of the day, you do have to ask yourself, is what I am doing here better than being in, say, Bant and having access to Uro, and Uro always drawing a card is just very good. And there's easier card advantage engines there, like Up the Beanstalk. I don't know that we need something like the One Ring in this deck. Again, there's some tension with High Noon, but having another source of card advantage would not be the end of the world. And with that, I think I'm going to call it a day. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any thoughts, throw them down in the comments below. See ya!